Hello, thanks for joining us on the Inside Track on Real Estate with the Decker team. And I'm Yetta Decker.
And I'm Ken Decker.
And today we want to chat about the top 10 fears when selling a home. Every seller has concerns, and we're going to use the word fears or concerns. You can kind of use whichever one you prefer, just about the whole process and about outcome and exactly what it's going to look like. So let's chat about that today and see if any of these apply to you. And just know that as real estate professionals, it is our job and our focus to eliminate or actually, as much as possible, get rid of the reasons for those fears or those concerns.
And one of the top things that people want to make sure is that they don't undersell their house.
Absolutely.
They don't sell it too low.
And that is definitely a big concern. And that one I would say is probably a concern that we don't need to think too much about, because most sellers will have a slightly elevated view of their home. Because we've lived in it, because we've done the work, because we know it intimately and we like it. We've been there, we've lived it, we've taken care of it, we've done the improvements. And so therefore, generally, we're going to, as a home seller, even ourselves, when we go to sell a home, we'll have another realtor come in and give us a secondary assessment just to verify and assure us that we haven't overinflated the value of our home. And so, although that's their biggest fear, it's probably the one fear that has the least amount of real credence to it.
I think unless you don't have the information that we bring to the table,
right,
there is a fear you could sell it for too low.
Correct.
There are people that have lived in their home for 20 years.
Yep.
And they don't have a clue really what the market value is. They maybe get their tax assessments. Tax assessments, the odd time, are overinflated, but most of the time are significantly under.
Or somewhat under.
Yeah, under what we might be able to sell the home for based on recent sales and where the market's going. Being able to interpret whether the market's going up or the market's going down in that particular neighborhood.
Or staying level.
Or staying level is very, very important in pricing the home. And the other thing that we can worry about when we sell it too low would be, let's say I decide to sell my house by myself and not put it with a realtor who has my back in their best interest. Yeah. And so they would maybe think, well, the house down the street sold for that, or I think it sold for that. They had it listed. I really don't know what it sold for. I've been here for 20 years. I paid $100,000, so I think it's worth 300. Well, maybe it's really worth 400. And if they go on for sale by themselves without the expertise of the Decker team, for instance, that might be an opportunity for them to sell too low. The other thing that might cause it to sell too low is they're not getting it out in front of enough people. And so with the expertise of the Decker team with our marketing, as well as armed with tools like the MLS and other internet services that we utilize.
Plus many other strategies. The fact that we actually proactively look for buyers for our properties every day.
Yes. All those things have us the ability to search a much broader pool of potential buyers and find someone that's willing to pay a higher price. Because if you had, let's say we had 90% of the population we get the property out in front of, or only 10% of the population
that are willing to buy or that are in the market.
Well, no, what I'm saying is like a for sale by owner, typically only 10% of buyers buy through a for sale by owner. So if only, and the reason is 90% of them are working with realtors because our services are free. So they're looking through
for a buyer.
Our system.
Right,
for a buyer, our services are free. And so they're looking through a real estate agent who's looking at properties that other real estate agents have listed for sale. And so 90% of the population is there and 10% is over here. Where do you think you might find a buyer that's willing to pay a little more? Or maybe even get 2 or 3 offers at the same time and get a bidding war going.
Right.
It's going to be when you're looking in the big pool.
Exactly.
So when you choose us, you can alleviate that fear of selling too low, because we will not allow that to happen.
No. And sometimes there is different strategies that we'll employ in terms of pricing it right at the market and potentially encouraging more than one offer, encouraging multiple offers. And people say, well, if I do that, it's maybe a slightly below market or right at market. Am I going to sell too low? Or if it sells too quickly, does that mean it sells too low? Not if the marketing plan has been aggressive and assertive and there's been an abundance of people exposed to it, then that really is not a relevant fear.
And at the Decker team, we have systems and models of the way that we put a home on the market that we won't allow that to happen. If someone is pricing very aggressively, we're going to get it out there in front of a lot of people before we actually accept an offer.
That's right.
And so the opportunity is there to get multiple offers.
Absolutely. And so that fear is obviously probably the biggest fear for folks, is selling too low. And yet one that, with good research and good interpretation of the market and a good understanding of what's happening, won't happen.
Okay, so let me say this. Check one. We got that one taken care of.
Okay.
All right.
Number two, that we have nowhere to go. That would be a fear for folks that are in the process of selling their home and already, well, obviously own a home and have to move somewhere. The whole conversation of, do we sell first, do we buy first, is a common one. So if we choose to sell first, then the thought is, what's going to happen when we actually sell our home? How are we going to know that we can actually find a home?
Right. And so we do some things that will help alleviate that issue, because many people can't afford to buy a house and then sell their house.
Right.
Most have to sell their house.
Well, and even those that can afford it don't always want to. They don't want to put themselves in that position that there's the potential that they're going to own two homes. So it would be less of a concern or fear for many, not for all, that they would rather own no homes for a short period of time. And those few days are a little fearful for most. And so one of the things we do to attempt to reduce that risk is negotiate a slightly longer closing date. So if we can get a longer closing date from the time we actually get an offer on your property, then it reduces the likelihood of having nowhere to go.
Yes, and we can put a home, before we put a home up on the market, we'll actually do a search for what the person is looking for, and then be able to say, okay, in your price range, here's 10 houses, and there's typically 10 houses for sale at all times in that price range, in that area. And so we feel very confident that we'll find you a good home given a decent amount of time to find it once your house sells. Now, for the extreme case where somebody finds a house and they say, I wasn't thinking about moving, but I saw this house and I love this house and it's in my perfect neighborhood, or it's waterfront, it's exactly what I've been looking for. They may not be willing to accept an offer conditional on selling another property. We have the ability to put their home on the market conditional on that specific property still being available. And if that property sells to someone else, we can pull their home off the market and they're done. They did have to go through a little work to prep it and maybe some showings, but at least there's no harm. They're not homeless.
Right,
exactly. Okay? So we can take that one too. That's two.
Okay. And a third fear, a third concern would be, will it sell? Is my home saleable? Is something that some people are very concerned about.
I believe there's a home for every buyer and a buyer for every home. Now, if you look at the stats on the MLS system, some people say that the MLS sells houses. The MLS does not sell houses. It's a tool to advertise houses. Realtors sell houses. And if the MLS sold houses, every house that went on the MLS would sell.
And they don't.
And they don't. And it's approximately about 25% of the houses that are on the market each month sell. So 75%.
And it depends on the neighborhood and the price range and the market. And
I'm talking general.
Right.
And generally right in the market that we're in right now. So if 75% of the houses aren't selling, what's the difference?
Right.
And it's marketing, it's the realtor, it's pricing it right.
It's condition.
It's the condition of the house. There's so many factors. Now, the Decker team has a very, very high success rate. If we put a home on the market, typically we get the job done. There's the odd one that doesn't, but we're certainly not 25% of our houses sell. It's more like 95% of our houses that we put on the market will sell.
Right.
So that's a great track record. Number 3, we got that one taken care of too.
Number 4, fixing the wrong things or spending the money in the wrong area in a house. So we encourage folks to be able to eliminate or alleviate that fear and concern is call us early so we can have a quick conversation about what things you're thinking of renovating, changing, upgrading, doing. Often people will call me and say, I've just done this. And it's like, if only we had chatted first, because this may be nice for you if you're going to live in the home long term, however, won't necessarily give you an increase in the value of the property. I had somebody recently who called and they painted the property and they'd had it completely painted in a nice basic white. And they'd had a professional come in to put in their new flooring, and they recommended that they put in laminate. And given the area and the price range, really what they ought to have put in was hardwood, and they ought to have painted it in some sort of earth tones based on the style of house and that kind of thing. And so it made it feel like an apartment. And it wasn't. I mean, and they had spent just about as much money as they would have spent had they done it correctly.
Yeah, it was a beautiful bungalow, actually.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And so it's a matter of fixing the right things in the right way and spending the right amount of money on it. If it's a bathroom that needs to be renovated anyway, then spending some money in the bathroom may not make any sense at all unless you can do the complete job, would be an example.
Right. And so we're very skilled at showing what inexpensive things can make a big improvement on the saleability and ultimately the price that the home sells for. And so we have a system where we'll come in, get your agreement that you want to work with the Decker team.
That's right.
And then once you've said, yes, we want to work with us, we'll go to work with helping you make all the different little changes, that sort of thing. We might have to do some staging. We might bring in some paintings. We might ask you to paint some walls, or we'll create the best value we possibly can, because our goal is to get the most for that property as possible. So we're going to tell you, don't fix that. That's going to cost you money. Or don't change that.
And it won't give you a return.
It won't give you a return. Exactly. Right. So we're going to, at the onset, really, really help people.
Right.
So we got that one too.
All right. So number 5, it's too much work to prepare. Well, having just talked about the one before it, saying, you know, what things do I fix, where do I spend my money, what I would say around too much work to prepare, you really don't have to do anything to prepare a home for market. It's going to determine what you sell it for, though. So you get to decide at what level do you want to sell your property, and that's going to determine, it's a balance between doing the effort and the return, what amount of money you're going to sell the house for. So we don't have to go over the top in preparing. A lot of times people want to do more than is necessary or more than is needed. Sometimes they don't want to do all that would be ideal, and we're just going to help you find that balance depending on where the money meets the work.
Yeah, and some people don't want to do any work, but they have some money. Right. And a couple $1,000 investment will turn a $10,000 or a $20,000 return in the final price, and we can help with those, and we can help put you in contact with the right contractors at the right price to get things done so that it can happen expediently and without not too much work for you. But it is work. It is work to sell a house. There is some work. You have to keep it ready, keep your beds made, things like that every day. And
we've sold homes where the beds aren't made. And where it's really quite messy and untidy and not even clean. And as I said a few minutes ago, they're saleable. It's just at what price, at what cost to you.
Okay, so we can handle that one too?
Yep, not too difficult.
One more off the list.
And Ken, talk to me about number 6. And it's a big fear for people, the word safety.
Safety. Yeah, safety. People want to be kept safe. That's one of our primary goals at the Decker team, is to keep our clients safe, both contractually and their home. So we have 2 types of lock boxes that we can lock your key in. One is mechanical, one's electronic. Typically we're using electronic ones throughout the city, and as we get more rural, we move to a mechanical because some of the rural agents don't have access to the electronic key to open the electronic boxes. And so by making the right lockbox in the right place, we don't eliminate any particular buyers from seeing the home. And we don't want to eliminate any buyers because the right buyer, it only takes one right buyer to buy a home, right? We don't need 2 buyers to buy a home. We need 1 buyer to buy a home. So safety is a big issue. in the house as well. So we're going to coach a little bit on prescription drugs, where to put them or how to hide them, or jewelry, like don't leave things out, don't leave your cash sitting on the dresser when you leave, things like that. So we're going to watch that. The other thing is, we don't want you home when we're showing the property. That's not because we don't like you, because we want to keep you safe. One of the big problems with a for sale by owner is they're inviting strangers into their house. People that a realtor, I don't take someone in my car and show them houses until I've met them. And we might have even done some paperwork. And I might have even gotten, a copy of their driver's license or
Generally
whatever
would have.
for photo ID. Then we're going to bring them through the properties. And when you're selling for sale by owner, you're inviting any stranger through your house at almost any time. I feel really fearful for couples that, the husband's at work, the wife's maybe at home, and they're letting strangers into the house while they're home alone. And I just think their safety is at stake. And whereas with a realtor there, you're safe.
Well, they've done some precautions,
yes,
right? And so that's the big difference, is there's been a little bit of prep work, or a fair bit of prep work done, and also some qualifications. There's no value in having somebody go through your home that can't afford it.
No. And the truth is, even realtors have been attacked in vacant homes. And so it's so important, even when we're doing an open house, we know our escape route, we know what to do, we have our telephone with us. We don't get ourselves in bad situations. So we've been trained on what to do for safety. And it's an important thing, because you are inviting strangers into your home.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're joining us right now, you're on the inside track with the Decker team. And today we're talking about top 10 fears that sellers often have when selling a property. And so, Ken, we're already chatting about number 7.
Yeah, this is a fear that it may take too long to sell the house. And maybe I'll miss the opportunity, the one that I want to buy.
Right.
So how do we alleviate that? Well, simply a lot of the things we covered in the first points. We're going to prepare your home for sale. We're going to do the marketing in an exceptional way. We're going to get it out in front of as many buyers as possible. And we're going to encourage you to price it right. We're going to price it on the market. There's an ability to be in the market or on the market. And remember I said 75% of homes don't sell and 25% of the homes do sell in a particular month? Well, the 25 that sell, they're in the market. The 75 that don't sell, the 75% that don't sell, they're on the market. They've thrown it out there. It's on the market, but it's not in the market, because the ones that are priced right are the ones that are selling. They're right in the market.
Yeah. And the average buyer is going to look at probably 12 to 15 homes before they actually purchase a property. Some look at fewer, some look at many more. On average, it's somewhere in that neighborhood. So your home at any given moment is in competition with at least 11 to 14 other properties. And that doesn't even count all that they've seen online. So really, they're in competition with hundreds of properties. However, from a physical visitation perspective, you're in competition.
Yeah.
And so if your home is one that has not been prepared well, has not been exposed well, has not been marketed well, has not been easily accessible for folks to get into, it is a valid fear that your home will take too long to sell, because it takes longer then if those factors aren't in place.
Right. And your home is actually selling the houses that are prepared well and priced well and marketed well, because they're seeing both properties.
Right.
And they're going, well, if you went to the Apple store, and you had 2 apples sitting there, and one was all polished up and one still had all that gray, what do you call
wax?
it? Wax and protectant on it from bugs and pests, and they're both the same price, which one would you buy? Obviously, you buy the one that's all polished up. And it's the same thing with real estate. They're making an informed decision on which house they're going to buy, and it's based on price, value, and condition.
Well, the benefits to the buyer, right?
So the property taking too long, what we're trying to say is a partnership between the home seller and us. We'll do all the marketing, we'll encourage the right pricing, and we'll do the negotiations, and we'll attempt to get offers as much as we can. But it's also the seller's responsibility to be available for showings, price it properly, and keep it in a showing condition.
Right, perfect.
Yeah.
So
we got that one too.
We got it, 7. All right. So number 8 is the fear of being too attached to the property, not being able to walk away from the things in my house, not even be able to take them down for showing sometimes is a fear, but the attachment to memories.
Yeah. Our home is that. It's a home. We don't sell homes, we sell houses, right? Your home is what you make of it.
Yeah.
And the memories, the nice thing about memories is the memories go with you. The memories don't stay in the house, they stay up here. They get to go with you and you'll make new memories in the new house. That being said, people are attached to their house and they're not ready to give it up because it's still home. And it's difficult to sell, and it may be difficult to price it well. And I see this all the time with someone that's just thinking of selling, we're not sure. They're not in the mode, they haven't detached yet. Now, if I take them out and show them 5 or 10 houses, and one they fall in love with, they will detach from their existing home and attach to the new home. And now it makes it very easy for them to do all the changes that we request to get the home ready. Because how you live in your home is not necessarily how you market your home and you present your home for sale may be significantly different than how you live in it. And some people aren't ready to make that change until they've attached to a new home.
Exactly.
And we'll help you through that process. So we get that one taken care of too.
And number 9, Ken, what would you say is the 9th common fear for folks?
It's really fear of the unknown, Yetta.
Okay.
We don't know what we don't know. That's one of the biggest problems. And that's where hiring a professional team like the Decker team that has years and years of experience has helped thousands of people buy and sell homes. We know what is unknown.
Most of the time.
Most of the time. To the sellers or the buyers, what is unknown to them is typically, it's like common sense for us because we do it day in, day out. And so things like relocating, where am I going to live? What's the neighborhood going to be like? That's a fear of the unknown for many people. We help people through transitions where they're going into a retirement home or an assisted living situation. And that's strange to them because it's new to them. And maybe they've lived in their home 30, 40 years. Yeah. Maybe they've had a spouse that's passed away in that home or since they've lived in that home. And again, the memories, the attachment to the home. It's an emotional decision to move into a better situation for you. And I've gone to see seniors after they've sold their home. And they're just loving it in the retirement home, because they were missing all that interaction with other people because they were kind of cocooning in their house. And now they have, someone looking after meals for them maybe, or someone helping out with the room or changing beds, things that were becoming a struggle. And they're socializing with people that are their peers of their similar age and learning how to play cards or bridge for the first time or whatever. They're just having a blast. And so at first that was unknown, and then it becomes very, very pleasant for them. Right. And so that fear of the unknown, making a decision without knowing what's on the other side, we can help through that transition.
Right, and sometimes for people, we spoke earlier on about selling first and then buying. For others, actually to alleviate that concern of the unknown, they would actually buy first. Yes. And sell second. And that's because there's enough equity, there's maybe no mortgage on the property, that really what they're saying, and if you're doing that, is you're saying that it is harder to find what I want than it is to sell what I have. So they may have a property that's quite an easy sale in the scheme of things. Location is perfect, condition is great, price is going to be appropriate to the marketplace. And so it may make sense to alleviate that concern about where do we go by simply buying the thing we want first and then selling, because we know that every home is saleable. That's not even a question in my mind. I have sold everything, I think.
So now the other thing, buying something before selling, but also I've seen seniors go into a retirement home, spend a month or two there, make sure it's a good fit for them, and then put their house up on the market for sale because they know they're enjoying where they're at. And they don't want to go back, so they've got that detachment. So that's a good option as well. Yeah.
So now top stressors, sort of the worst of the worst. What would you say that is, Ken?
Well, I've heard it said that selling your house is in the top 3 stresses in life. The other one is losing a family member, death in the family, and divorce. And many times people are dealing with 2 of those things at the same time. So we're dealing with people that are stressed out. Because you know, if you're in the middle of a divorce and you have to sell the family home, and then you know, maybe you each have to buy another house or something. For a realtor, that's okay because we get to sell a house, we get to buy 2 more. That's not that I like divorce, but what it's saying is we understand, and people sometimes fear telling us what's going on in their life. The stress may be coming from, you know, financially they just can't do it anymore. Or the bank might be knocking on the door and they've got a letter that says, hey, in 6 weeks, we're taking back the house. And so they're under extreme pressure to get their home sold before that happens. Because if the bank takes it back, you know you're going to get less money for your house. You may lose more money under power of sale, and there's going to be a lot more legal fees. So if we can get it done, sold before that happens, and net them more money, and they may even walk away with some money instead of owing the bank still when it's all said and done. So, but coming to us and letting us know the situation, don't be, what's the word, embarrassed. As a realtor, we're your partner, and we want to protect you and help you to the best we can, and we can't do that unless we know the restraints and the issues that you're dealing with. And it may be ugly for you to say what's going on, but we understand. We've done it. We've helped people that are in all those situations sell their home. And so we're experts at it, we're compassionate, and we can get it done in a time frame that needs to happen. So that's probably the top stressor, is the ones that are not a happy sale, but it's got to get done. And so we'll get it done for you. And then, you know, of course, the other ones are nice too, the ones where you're moving up or that kind of thing. Right. So that's our number 1 fearfulness, I think, in people is, will they find out that I have a family issue or that I have a financial issue? And the truth is, we're probably going to find out anyways.
So you might as well let us help you. And so thank you for joining us today on the Inside Track on Real Estate with the Decker team. We've been talking about the top 10 fears when selling a home. And if you want to check out some of the archive shows or send us your questions, you can go to chri.ca, or you can go to deckerteam.com, where you have both a video version as well as an audio version of these shows, and all kinds of topics. We're starting to build quite a accumulation of them. So if there's something you want to learn without having to sit down and learn it firsthand, you're certainly welcome to check those out. And so thank you for joining us today. And if you have questions about real estate in general or anything specific you want an answer to right now, then you can reach us at 613-860-4663, 613-860-4663, or HOME is the last 4 digits, HOME.
That's fantastic, and we're so glad you joined us for the Inside Track on Real Estate with the Decker team. Bye for now, and see you next week.
See you soon.
What you wanna do?